Okay, we are live. Uh, and thank you for taking the time um, to listen. If you're watching this on replay, you might want to write your answer to the following question in the comment section. And if you're watching this now, um, you can write it in the chat. But you have to be a member, no, subscriber to the channel to join the chat, I believe. If I remember to, yes. So what's the, here's the question. Which ideology is the most dangerous? Looking back at history, which ideology is the most dangerous? So what people tend to do is that they write ideologies that they don't like. So if you're a Christian, you will write Islam or communism. If you're a socialist, you will write Christianity or religion, and so on and so on. And it's, well, you could say it's a trick question in a way, but also not. I'm going to get back to it. Actually, I'm going to make a note so that I do not forget. Okay. So I am Norwegian, and here in Norway, our politicians, I like, I love those people. Some of them, they came up with this idea that our young, the 18, 19-year-olds, they all should serve the country practically for free for 1 year. It's such a great opportunity. That's what they're saying. And also, well, if you didn't know, we have mandatory conscription in Norway, but not all are picked to serve in the military. So there's it's not like everyone. It's actually a minority that of those people, the 18 or 19-year-olds that actually serve in the military. And I didn't actually. I was very happy to get away to get not do that because it's a wasted year basically. But now they're talking about, well, either having all, let's say, 19-year-olds serve Norway for free for 1 year. And they're also talking about, well, we need to, because of Putin, we need to we need to have more people in the military. So let's make it so that let's just give more money to the military so that we can have all the 19-year-olds serving a year as soldiers, boys and girls. And there was a poll. I couldn't find the results right before this live stream, but there was a poll that they did, and I was shocked when I saw the result. Now, we need to remember that these polls, surveys are not always correct. They can be tampered with. So I don't know, but if the results are correct, it's scary. It's proper scary. More than 80% of those asked said that yes, they support a mandatory year serving in the military for all 19-year-olds in Norway, boys and girls. No, a majority said both boys and girls, and a minority said but only the boys. And then there was like less than 20% who said, no, that's wrong. Nobody asked me, but I can tell you if they had asked me, I would have said, no, that's wrong. Why is that wrong? Well, shouldn't we let young people be ready to defend Norway against the evil Russian? That's the story they're telling in mainstream media every day, and they have done so for as long as I can remember, actually. Um, I am very disappointed, again, with my fellow Norwegians. How can they support something like that? And here's what I will say. The state does not own you and should never be allowed to own you. And anything that the state and the politicians do that looks a little bit like they own you is wrong. We can't have a system where the state can do with you as they please, as it pleases. Because if we have such a system, you're not free. Then you are actually a slave. Now, some would argue we're still, that's the situation in most countries. Well, if so, we need to protest. We need to be very vocal about how that is wrong and why it is wrong. The most efficient military forces on the planet do not have a mandatory conscription. It's in the USA, for instance, it's a profession to be a soldier, which I support, which is a system I support. But let's get back to my question: which ideology is historically speaking, the most dangerous ideology possible? Which ideology is that? Let me just look at the chat here. Trond Arnfinn says, fighting for those I love, yes, without a doubt. For the government, absolutely not. Well, it's like I will probably get people in the comment section writing, well, what will you do when the Russians come and kill your family? And that's supposed to be an argument for mandatory conscription. And these people are so stupid that they can't see they can't really see and understand what they're saying. The thing is, if let's say I was forced into the military, I would not be there to defend my family then, would I? But these people are proper stupid, you know? So, Oklahoma Chicken Cam is supporting 1 year public service for everyone. Well, I'm sorry that you're a supporter of slavery. I do not support that. Let's Jason. Yeah. Let's see here. I'll just read some answers. Colonialism, MAGA extremism. No, is this about MAGA extremism, Jim? No. Let's see here. Egalitarianism and yeah. MAGA, liberalism, And here, Vegeta says, I see no conspiracy theories. Well, we got rid of most of the crazy people here. But so many things are called conspiracy theories now. Um, yeah, you call it the draft, but this is not really only about draft. Uh, okay, narcissism. So, fundamentalist Islamism, gynocentrism, and so on. I think it was Jason who was very correct here, and Randall. Statism. Yeah, statism. That's a that's an ideology. It's the belief that power should be centralized under a governing system like the state. Um, that implies that being member of the state comes with certain obligations. For instance, if the leaders say that you have to pick up that gun and go and shoot that person over there that you have never met, then you have to do that. We call it war. Um, and historically speaking, you could put all theocratic systems, theocratic states, socialist states, and all of these are basically statist systems because they all of these ideologies can be put in this big bag where the idea is that you should have some people representing the state and they will make decisions and point at what the citizens are supposed to do, and if they don't do that they will be punished. All of these systems come with taxes and a lot of other um, um, rules and regulations. um, Now, this is another way of this isn't not a new way of thinking about it, but it is a way of thinking that I don't see very often because people are not used to thinking like that. They suppose that you have to be part of a system. You have to be that little cog in the machinery. But it doesn't really have to be that way. Now, I'm not saying that we can coexist without rules and consequences. And the classic example is we need to have police because we need to have some people who can stop idiots who get drunk and then start driving their car around because that's not good. We can't have drunk people driving cars. That's one example. And there are several other examples of that. I think the term is that I'm looking for here is a night watch state. Um, a small government that will give you freedom unless in those areas where your behavior could affect others. It's kind of common sense, um, and I think that the libertarian argument that is a yeah, I don't feel like getting into it because um, no, they have a timeline. Libertarians, the American libertarians, they seem to have a timeline problem. And I won't even try to explain what that's about, what that means. Um, but it's my message here with this live stream, I guess, is that if we can think about statism as an ideology, then we have taken a giant leap forward. It because it means that there are other ways of existing. We don't have to be parts of a system that is so cruel, that has so much power over the individual. Now, of course, people have been brainwashed up through the centuries into believing and feeling that we have to have a system like that. And whoever opposes that system is the enemy. So you will have odd results like, well, yes, all young people should serve the state for 1 year. Like, where the hell is that coming from? Are you crazy? I mean, are you insane? You know what that means? You're giving young people to the politicians. That's what you are doing, because if they say that, well, actually, it's bad enough that they own people for 1 year, but they can just point at anything and say, do that, because our democratic system, the majority vote says that you have to do that. That's the But people, they say also that no, they would never do that. Really? Really? Let me give you a classic example. Like, let's say there's an armed conflict, and um, and politicians find it beneficial to have some refugees that crept into across the border into your country. Yeah, and lots of people, they don't like refugees. But let's say your family is in that situation. You had to flee across the border to another country. Now you're the refugee. Okay, so the politicians in that country, they decide that we don't want those people here, and we're going to shoot them. Um, well, they can just send those 19-year-olds to do that, and then some people will say that's illegal. They would never do that. And then my response is, you should read some history. You should you should look back. You don't have to look very far back at the decisions politicians have made, what they've forced people to do, because they've owned them through the draft, as the Americans say, or the conscription. You get my point here? You can only support 1 year mandatory, the draft, or serving the state for 1 year. Um, you can only support that if you trust your politicians. Do you trust your politicians? I don't. Because if you support having young people or anyone serving mandatory through a mandatory system, serving the state for 1 year or for a day, if you support that, you're giving those people to the state, which is run by the politicians. Well, actually, that's a big discussion, but it's run by someone. Okay, do you trust your politicians? You better do that. You better trust them if you support a system like that. So, let's see here. Yeah, Andrew says, having okay. So Andrew says, every time I hear someone say police, military, whoever would never do that, I have to fight extremely hard not to roll my eyes and sigh loudly. Did you know that the police in Norway assisted the occupying force during the Nazis during the Second World War, to have the Jews rounded up and sent to the concentration camps? the police helped them. Why did they do that? Well, because they had to, because the state was, well, Quisling, his government, he took over, and he served under the Nazi thing there, and the police, they were, just doing their job. Yeah. I would, to be fair, a lot of them quit, but still. Jason says, as long as it's for defense and not colonialism, then I have no problem with required military service. Well, how will how will you know? Yeah, they will. I'm sure that the politicians will assure you that it will only be used for defense. Yes. Red Desert Rose says, exactly, you can only support that if you trust your politicians. Yeah. Let's see here. Yes, yes, if you like this live stream, then give it a thumbs up. That would be wonderful. Yeah, so this is basically what I wanted to say, and it's something that, at least in Norway, a lot of people get very annoyed when I say this, and they get very upset. There's a word that I'm looking for. Well, I can't really remember now, but when you're, it's sort of a brainwashing, and they all think that since they were in the military, then all young people should be in the military. That's the attitude, but also, another aspect here is the taxes. Like Norway is now, I believe, the most heavily taxed country in Europe, and people seem to think that that's right. That's how it should be. You know why? Because the politicians here have managed to sell the idea to the people that we need to tax the rich more. And I've said for years that, you know what that means? I'll translate for you. We need to tax you people more. That's what it means. But of course, they won't say that. They will say, we'll tax the rich because the rich are just greedy and horrible people and they deserve higher taxes. So they sell this idea of increasing the taxes by catering to people's envy and hate. And, it's, yeah. So we ended up with as the most heavily taxed country in Europe. You know, and I'm just over here saying, you know what, it's wrong when you tax people that hard. When you tax people so that old people who have lived in, their house, an old couple, and they have to sell their house because they can't pay the property tax. That's wrong. It's not right to do that. So, yeah. Yeah, I can talk a little bit about the Jante law, which is a concept that says a lot about Norway, but also other countries. There was an author, a novelist, he was Danish actually, Sandemose, and he wrote in Norwegian, as far as I know. Well, I think he lived in Norway for most of his life. and he wrote a book about the village of Jante, where they had a law, and that law is about you shouldn't think better of yourself. You shouldn't think that you're better than anyone. And that sounds great to many people. It seems to be a very Christian thing, or not only that, but it's not. I can tell you straight away that I'm just being honest with you here. I think there are lots of people out there. I'm better than those people. I am. And you would say the same if you were honest. And you guys are honest. But this idea that you're not better than anyone is wrong. And I don't think anyone really think that. Um, so let's just give it a try here. Do you like Joe Biden? You like Joe Biden? Are you fans of Joe Biden? No. So my second question is, do you think that you're better than Joe Biden? Are you a better human being than Joe Biden? Um, of course. Of course. I mean, so let's be honest here. This idea that um, you shouldn't think that you're better than anyone is just it's lying to yourself. Um, but the Jante law is a concept that was described in his book about how the system keeps people down. It suppresses people, and it's about um, again that word that I can't remember. Let's see. Yes. When you're conditioned to think in a certain way, when you're conditioned to think that, well, I should just do as I'm told here in this system. So it's a very anti-statist book, and yeah, it's an important one. So yeah, indoctrination, that's a good word as well. Um, so well, you could even say, those people who are you better than someone who abuses children? You know, are you a better human being? If you're being honest, you will say that you are a better human being than people who do that. So again, this idea that, well, you're not better than anyone, it's wrong. It's lying to yourself. So yeah, that's pretty much what I wanted to say. And it's like you don't have to agree, but I will say this, that if you tell me that the state should be allowed to own my kids, we're going to have a problem, okay? You're going to get some resistance there. So that's just how it is. And I think all parents either feel the same or should feel the same. Um, that's that's how it is. So okay. Yeah, I'm going to end the live stream now. Thank you for watching, and I'll be back suddenly.